You know how stasis is like an absolute plague, or whatever? Well, it's full-on, unmasked, sweaty bodies in an unvaccinated concert arena pandemic plague now. Whisper of Rime is a new fragment that's come out with Season of the Splicer, granting an overshield when you pick up a stasis shard. This overshield expires after 10 seconds, and collecting any additional shards refreshes this timer. The shield buff stacks up multiple times, maxing out to give 100 health worth of shields. Okay, so what? It does what it says on the box. Well, the box description is incomplete because, well, look at it again. Whisper of Rime is clearly also giving you damage resistance. No, I didn't stutter, and no, it's not trivial. This is some bullshit, and I'm here to show you all about it. Alright, I've spent the last few days testing this fragment with a few members of my community, and this is what we found. When you get shot at when you have Whisper of Rime equipped, and you have an overshield active from picking up a stasis shard, you take reduced damage from critical shots. Now, to generate a stasis shard, you must have Tectonic Harvest, Grim Harvest, or Glacial Harvest aspects equipped on Titan, Hunter, and Warlock respectively. One stasis shard was good for about a third of an overshield on Hunter. 2 shards were 2/3, and 3 shards gave a full overshield. What we noticed is that on Titan and Warlock, we gain less overshield per shard than Hunter, by around a third. Put simply, you need 3 shards to cap out the overshield on Hunter, and 8 on Titan and Warlock. We noticed that when we had an overshield active, we took less damage from both kinetic and special weapons in the Crucible. But how much we took was different based on what was shooting at us. Naturally, this tingled our spidey senses, so we loaded up a Mayhem private match with stasis equipped, set the timers to the minimum recharge time, and did the following test. We had 4 players in our fire team with defined roles. Player 1 and 2 were the stasis dummies, whose sole purpose was to die to stasis so we could pick up stasis shards. Player 3 was the one killing players 1 and 2, acquiring stacks of shards depending on how many stacks were being tested at any given point. For brevity in testing, we used a Hunter. So if you'd like to kill those 2, with stasis. Player 4 was the one shooting player 3 in order to test the damage resistance they get when they have a certain number of shards active. We asked player 4, or in this case me, to use a variety of different weapons to test how much damage was being dealt based on the number of shards picked up, or the total overshield that player 3 had. Our theory was that not all weapons were created equal, and that there was some BSery happening depending on archetype. We used the major meta archetypes of weapons: 120 and 140 RPM hand cannons, 340 RPM pulse rifles, 90 and 72 RPM sniper rifles, and just for fun, Chaperone and Felwinter's Lie. On screen now is a typical test scenario. We first damaged someone as normal to see what the base damage numbers were. In this case, with our 120 RPM hand cannon, we're dealing 90 to the head and 50 to the body. Then, we had player 3 acquire 1 shard, and for clarity this is on Hunter, so he had 33% overshield. And as you can see, a headshot now does 64 to the head. Weird, right? Okay, what about the 2 shards, or 66.6% overshield for an approximate health value of 258? 50 to the head. Coincidentally, the same as the base body shot damage, remember that. At 3 shards with a full overshield and a theoretical HP value of 290, we still did 50 to the head on the first shot. The second one was 51 though, and the third one was 90. What? Basically, the overshield is nullifying any incoming critical damage, but displaying them like crits. Those body shot numbers with our 120s hold true no matter what weapon you're using. Take the 340 RPM pulse rifle. Here is a messenger doing completely normal damage, 36 to the head, 22 to the body. But as soon as we get a substantial overshield, those bursts start doing just 22 to the head, same as our body shot damage number. At a third overshield, we got damage values of 22, 29, and 36. At 2/3 overshield, we saw 22s across the board. Same for the full overshield, though on our second burst we got a higher damage number. So those crits count as body shots until such time the shield is stripped. Then the normal precision multiplier kicks in. The damage resistance in this case is that the crit multiplier is simply at x1 when Whisper of Rime's overshield is up. And for those of you who don't know, Destiny calculates the crit numbers, or the yellow numbers, when you hit the head in the following way. Take your weapon's body shot damage and multiply it by a number that changes by weapon type, and that is the resulting critical damage. For example, high impact snipers do 158 to the body, but on a critical shot they deal 3x damage for a total of 474, sometimes rounded to 475 in game because reasons. What the Rime overshield does is give you 100 health that doesn't give a single damn about the crit damage multiplier. Continuing on with the high impact sniper example, for the first 100 damage of the high impact shot, it only does 100 damage as if it was a body shot. The remaining 58 damage that is not affected by the overshield, now that it's gone, is multiplied by 3 for a total of 174. Which is then added to the initial 100 damage dealt for a grand total of 274, which results in this clip. A full health overshield with Rime is 290 hit points of damage at tier 5 resilience, which is more than 274, so our man survives. A full headshot with a high impact sniper to the face. Yeah. With Rime, your safest bet is to try and acquire at least 33% shield to survive most engagements comfortably. But make no mistake, even at a third shield, you're capable of taking more bullets than are otherwise required to die. For hunters, all that means is defeating someone when slowed and having Grim Harvest equipped to deal with it. For Titans, it's even easier. You can pick up shards by shattering any crystal that you can create yourself using glacier grenades. Warlocks are unfortunately limited to just frozen opponents, but let's be real, you have quite a few ways to do that now.
Here we go. Where is he? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And with the diversity in build options for stasis specifically being so high, the problem potential for Rime is incredibly high. With as many options as we have now for both aspects and fragments, and with more to come next season, there are definitive combinations that will become more and more prevalent as synergies continue to be discovered. These builds will begin to cast even longer shadows over the light-based subclasses over time, and it continues to show just how badly stasis needs to be reined in. You should run Whisper of Rime because it doesn't have a stat penalty, and it has no substantial cost other than a little time investment into the shard creating side of stasis. It's free overshield and damage reduction in a meta that is heavily centered around abilities and damage boosting perks. So anyways, here's a few builds to abuse the ever-living hell out of it. Hunters. Gambler's Dodge, Cold Snap Grenades, run the new aspect, Touch of Winter, and Grim Harvest. I recommend running Rime in conjunction with Whisper of Chains, Whisper of Torment, and Whisper of Conduction. Whisper of Chains gives more damage resistance near frozen targets, with free recovery on top of that. Whisper of Conduction gives you even more free stats, a plus 10 to both resilience and intellect, and allows for the stasis shards that you create to come to you. Throw in Whisper of Torment to have more grenade uptime, and you're golden. The intent here is to just play around your cold snaps as much as you can, with additional shards coming from defeats using shurikens. I highly recommend dumping stats into mobility for shortened dodge cooldown, and since you're running Gambler's Dodge, your shurikens will be up more often as a result, instead of focusing solely on the strength stat. Though for those of you who don't want to play chicken with other stasis users, understandable, have a nice day, speccing for high strength is also fine. Titans. Glacier Grenade is a must. You have some choice here with your aspects. The initial setup that comes to mind actually abandons Cryoclasm in favor of Howl of the Storm and Tectonic Harvest. Speccing into this means focusing on your Howl Slide melee as much as you can. Run Whisper of Chains for damage resistance on demand with your Howl of the Storm, Whisper of Shards to regen your grenade energy back faster, and Whisper of Conduction for free stats and shard tracking. play aggressively with the setup. Your uncharged melee one-hit stasis crystals, so if you're not fighting anyone and you don't have enemies around, throw a glacier grenade nearby and break every crystal you create. Each crystal broken boosts your grenade recharge, and any large crystals create a stasis shard, giving you melee energy back and an overshield for the next fight. It's a feedback loop of sorts, combined with Heart of Inmost Light for even more absurd ability cooldowns. If you choose to run Cryoclasm, just remember you have to run Tectonic Harvest, otherwise there's no point in running Whisper of Rime. Warlocks. Ice Flare Bolts and the new aspect Glacial Harvest are both critical. Cold Snap Grenades are crucial for this to work as well as we want it to. The fragment setup is identical to Hunters, Whisper of Rime, Torment, Chains, Conduction. Invest heavily into your grenade. Each freeze you get chains to someone else and gives you more melee energy and an overshield on shard pickup. You'll want to play a touch more conservatively with this one, but the second you get that freeze, you need to be aggressive and push hard for that kill. This is probably the weakest class to play around Rime on, but if you play your mid-range properly, you'll be just as much of a menace as the others. At this point, the divide, well, it's more of an abyss now between Stasis and Light, let's be real. It's not even close, at least in PvP. As new aspects and fragments are released, this gap will grow more and more and more. And at this point, adapting, or playing to win, means swapping to Stasis. There's next to no reason to run light-based subclasses unless you're purposefully challenging yourself these days or looking for a different experience. Stasis isn't going to be slowing down anytime soon either. Switching over is not a question of if, but when. And with Whisper of Rime, that time is now. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I hope you're liking the new style of videos and the new type of content we're covering. Improvement videos are on hold for now, but I hope to inform and elevate you nonetheless with this approach. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you later this week. Cheers.